welcome to today's episode of Inside the Pod. We're out and about today. We're in Nocton in Lincolnshire, where it's the PGRO's Vining Pea Day, our open day that we hold every year, and I'm here with Chris Judge, Dr. Chris Judge. Chris, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. It's good to be here, and it's a good event, and it's something that we do annually for the vining pea industry, and it's usually a good event, and the trials are looking good this year, so hopefully we should get a lot of interest throughout the day with people coming to see what all the new varieties are looking like.
We've got a viner running around in the background and plenty of skylarks about, so that probably does indicate that the vining pea harvest is close. Chris, just before we started recording, we were talking about how you actually feel like you might need to take off quite a few more of these trials perhaps this afternoon after a few people have been here.
Yeah, no, we started doing tests last week, and we had a few plots go on Friday, and nothing else was looking ready then, but there's a load of the early ones that are being taken today by the team, and we might end up adding one or two more to those.
So for people who haven't been to the Vining Pea Open Day before, perhaps set out a bit of context for our listeners that can't see what we're looking at here. So how do you set out your trials and what you're looking for? Feel free to wander around and show us as well if you want to.
Here we've got 41 different lines here for the public trial for the descriptive list, and there's a private vining pea trial there for a client as well. And what we're looking at here is new lines rather than the established ones, but we have got 5 or 6 controls as well just to be benchmarking. So this is all new material, bred by people around the world, testing to see how well it suits the UK market and UK conditions. So we've got things replicated 3 times for free harvest and a 4th rep just for taking tests. And the goal is that we're getting everything at 100 TR and 120, and to get a load of data that can be fed back into the industry. It's a very unique thing. There's not really independent yield testing on vining peas anywhere else in the world that we know of, and particularly going somewhere that's independent and seeing material from lots of different companies is a really unique thing to be able to do.
I hadn't appreciated that, so it's not done anywhere else in the world as far as you know?
As far as I know, companies who are breeding vining peas will have their own trials that they're doing to check their early material, but in terms of independent testing of vining peas, as far as I'm aware, that's not done anywhere else, certainly nowhere else in Europe.
Wow, so unique information. I mean, maybe a fairly obvious question, but what is it that you're looking for as the peas grow during the season? What is it that you're sort of looking to take data on?
Mid-season, we're more just looking that nothing is wrong and that there's no reason to discount that trials data. There's not been a massive issue with the population or massive issue with pest or bird damage that would mean that we'd have to avoid that half of the plot or anything. Most of the data is all collected at the end, so we'll be collecting height and standing data at the end. We've got separate trials looking at disease on them, but it's all about the yield, the size grading, the horn weight, and then when they're frozen, the quality traits afterwards. So it does very much all come in at the end, the measurements that we're most interested in these lines.
And when people come to a day like this, that's the sort of thing that they're looking at. Well, who comes? Who do you attract to days like this, and what sort of thing are they interested in?
Yeah, it's quite a split. You will have a load of the people there will be representative of some of the different plant breeders come. So we've actually got some people coming over from France, some people coming over from Hungary to see lines that their breeding programs have produced, to see them in the UK, see them in the UK context. Particularly the UK disease pressure is often quite different. Compared to somewhere like Hungary, the average temperature at this time of year is quite different. So they want to see their lines, look how they've podded, look how they're comparing to other ones of similar maturity being bred by other people, and based on that, they'll be assessing how they're going to market them in the UK, but also thinking about their breeding programme going forward. Oh, if this one does well in the UK and this one doesn't, what am I going to breed off it? What might I cross it with? How might I then target the UK market afterwards? But it won't just be breeders coming to this, but it will also be some of the UK agents and some of the representatives from different growing groups in the UK. Again, they're more likely to be coming through thinking a couple of years ahead in their programme. I'm not that happy with my early lines, I want one in the middle. My groups tend to like conventional leaved, or my groups tend to like semi-leafless. And it's walking along and thinking, hang on, this one looks like it's got potential. Obviously, this is really small plot trials rather than big sections of a field. Something can look like it's got potential here, and it might be a bit seasonal, or it might not suit their conditions, but at least taking note of something that might really help them in the future You know, I think people sometimes set a reminder in their calendar, that line's going to be released in 2 years' time, contact that company then and see if I can get a test bit to do a little corner of a field or something. And it can just help, you know, keep the industry not stagnant, keep things moving forward by having stuff tested in the UK, evaluated, all drilled the same, all harvested at its optimum point. It does really allow a picture to be built up.
And this season in particular, can you describe how it's gone in terms of weather and disease pressure and the usual things that we look at for this time of year?
Yeah, it was dry early, but not for as long as last year. I would say most plots here are looking quite good and quite healthy. Again, there has been downy mildew in the field. In the downy mildew test strips, they've been able to get good scores. But again, none of the plots are looking overly devastated by it. In times where we've got some of the weaker plots, one, they're more in the private trial, but also often that is an issue that's kind of come from the initial germination rather than it being knocked on the head by adverse weather or disease.
And are these all new varieties for this year then, or are these varieties that are already grown that you're just sort of adding to the data pot on?
Sure. So we tend to have some early screening lines here, and then we have lines for the list have 3 years of testing. So some of these will be seen for the first time, either a new screening or a new prelim. Some things we'll have had last year, some things we'll have had for the last 2 years, and then after that, with 3 years of data, we'll put it on our official list. Though there are controls here. So we have Oasis as a yield control, Avola as a maturity control, and we are actually looking at adding some more controls, adding a bit more things in the industry for a retest. So we've got some other things like Aloha and Ambler and Dancer, just expanding the controls slightly, just to make sure that we've got backups if something goes wrong with the main controls.
Okay. And describe the sort of thought pattern from like say an agent that might come and have a look at the piece today. What sort of information are they taking away, and what would they then do with that information in terms of the decisions that they're going to be making?
They'll be looking at the node set, they'll be looking at just generally how many sort of pods it seems to be making, how it seems to be standing. And again, if they've got 6 lines here or 8 lines here, they'll be looking at all of them and thinking, you know, have any of them struggled? Have any of them seem to be particularly well podded, or, you know, producing triples, etc. And sort of using that to think about what customers they might have if they're an agent that might be interested in them.
Anything of note that you've seen this year that you think is quite an interesting variety?
It's really hard to tell at this stage before you've seen the data what's going to yield well. But as I said, some things we're seeing for the second time or third time, and there have been some over the last couple of years that have had some quite impressive yield results that we're now seeing again. So it all really depends on if they can be consistent with those. You know, you don't want something that's doing 100% one year and 40% the next. You might rather have something that did 90, 90, 90. But there are a couple of varieties that have had a year where they out-yield the yield standard, and if they're able to repeat that, those varieties will be very interesting to the industry.
Any emerging trends that you're seeing from the breeding lines that you're evaluating?
Not overly. I think there is a real desire to find some more good early lines or mid lines rather than the later lines, but it's much easier to breed high yield into the later lines that have more time to develop. But I would say there's possibly a slight trend to try and target that high yielding early to mid line, and some people seem to be doing that.
So PGRO Kid will be one of the topics that's being talked about, and obviously we're in the season now where we're asking growers and agronomists whether you're growing vining peas or combining peas to be looking at your fields and seeing for any sort of symptoms or signs of infestation there. What's your take on it so far, Chris, in terms of what the PGRO's seen? And I'm assuming you've not seen any evidence of it out here, otherwise we'd be destroying it.
No, we haven't seen any evidence out here. All the pods are looking clean and they don't have the telltale eggs laid in them. I know elsewhere at PGRO there was a crop of winter peas that was seen at just a couple of plots and they were just destroyed immediately. And we just encourage everyone to be vigilant. Now is the time of pod set. Now is the time to find those eggs and make appropriate decisions for the crop afterwards.
Great. Well, we're going to let Chris get on with his job today, which is to see all of the visitors. I'm glad to see a couple of cars arriving already, Chris, which means that you're not going to have a slow start this morning.
No, it tends to be most popular probably first thing and lunchtime, and then it's just picking up any stragglers in the afternoon.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your time, Chris. Hope you have a good day today. That's it for today's episode. Very quick, short, sharp episode from the field, but we'll be back again very shortly. We've got our Pulse Open Day towards the end of the month, so we'll be going to that to report on that as well. But if you've liked what you've heard today, please leave us a 5-star review, and if you'd like to leave a comment as well on your chosen podcast provider, we welcome that too. Otherwise, thank you very much for listening, and I hope you join us again soon.